Have you ever been driving down the road, and no matter what you do, you keep getting hit by this nasty glare? But when you look down, you can't seem to find what's causing this major distraction?
Well, unfortunately, it's probably that high gloss interior trim that's causing all that excessive glare. But in today's video, we're remedying that exact problem in the form of the 3M carbon fiber vinyl wrap. Let's get into the video. What's up everybody, my name is Fritz and welcome to the channel. For those of you who are new to the channel and are unfamiliar with this car, this is my dad's red F30 that we picked up a few months ago and is going to now be officially replacing the white F30. And if you want to know how much we picked up and sold that white F30 for, stick around to the end of the video because you'll be pleasantly surprised with how much we got for that car. But getting into the main topic of today's video, which is pretty much my dad's only concern when it comes to this F30, and that is the glare that is reflected off of the piano black interior trim while he's driving. Although he really likes the aesthetic look of that piano black with the red trim, it interferes with him way too much while he's driving. So after running through a few options with him, he finally decided on the carbon fiber vinyl wrap. And specifically, this is the 2080 from 3M, which is gonna save us a whole lot more money than buying entirely brand new trim. And on top of that, this specific wrap is so much easier to work with than all of the other wraps, including the 1080 variant from 3M, and feels more like carbon fiber than any other brand on the market. But regardless of which finish that you decide to go with, follow along as we proceed through the installation, because the installation tips and process is going to be the same no matter what finish that you get, and might even be easier because you don't have to worry about the lines of the carbon fiber matching up. So let's get this installed.
The Idrive trim can be removed with a plastic trim tool and by disconnecting the Idrive controller itself. The center vent trim is removed with the same tool and is easiest to pry out the edges of the vent sections before pulling the rest out by hand. Don't forget to disconnect these two connections before moving on to the driver vent, which can be removed with the same technique. The door handles have a lip at the bottom to wedge your tool in and remove them. Now that all the trim is out, let's prep it. The iDrive controller is held in with 3 T20 Torx screws, while the vents need to be pried off with the respective trims. But before we wrap them, let's give them a good cleaning so the vinyl adheres well. We'll need a 3 foot by 5 foot sheet in order to reproduce the OEM carbon pattern. Cut the vinyl for the door handles first, and they must be positioned like this in order to get that OEM look. Each one should have an 18.5 by 10.5 inch sheet, with the carbon running diagonally from the top rear corner to the front. When applying the vinyl, apply it to the longest flat surface first, and be mindful of that top corner to get the proper angle. Then stretch the vinyl over the edge and remove any air bubbles. When you get to a corner, you'll want to roll the vinyl over the corner with your thumbs, and this will allow the wrap to hug that corner and stay in place. On the back side, tuck the wrap along the inner edge before cutting and removing the excess. Finally, apply a relief cut in the inner corners and tuck the wrap. The backside doesn't need to be perfect, but the front should look like this afterwards. Do this 3 more times for the other handles and be mindful of the pattern. But this is the hardest trim, so if you need a warm up, start with another piece and get back to these. The iDrive trim requires a 19.5 by 9 inch piece with the carbon running diagonally from the driver rear corner to the passenger top corner. Laying the vinyl on top and stretching over the edges as we did before, you'll notice This piece is much easier to work with due to the straight lines. Once it looks like this, roll the corners with your thumbs, allowing the corner to come in between your thumbs when going down that specific corner. Then tuck the wrap on the inside of the trim and cut the leftover, but leave a bit more on the ends for our relief cuts. Just cut inside the corner as before and lay the flaps down flat. Moving on to the iDrive cutout. Cut 2 perpendicular lines and tuck the wrap along the inner edge and cut any vinyl that hangs over, while applying additional pressure at those corners. With the middle cut out, apply your relief cuts to the corners and tuck them into place. Then go over the definition lines with an application card and heat before placing back in the iDrive controller and securing the 3 T20 Torx screws. Between the cutouts for the door handles as well as the iDrive trim, you should have a scrap piece of at least 9.5 by 7 inches, and this is perfect for the driver vent trim. Apply it with the carbon running diagonally up from the top corner. Roll the corners as you normally would and stretch over the edges. But this time, we'll tuck the vinyl in that crack in between the gloss black and the rest of the trim. Just be careful to tuck the corners really good here. And don't forget to tuck the back side of the vinyl, then cut off the extra. When it comes to cutting the front, cut in that gap, but run your blade along the trim away from the original gloss piece. This will give us just a little bit more material to tuck in afterwards. Add a little bit of heat and reinsert the vent by engaging the lower tabs first and pressing in the top. The center vent trim is our biggest piece at 28.5 by 9.25 inches, and the carbon will run upwards from the lower driver corner to the passenger upper corner. In order to stretch the vinyl properly over such a big piece, we need to secure the corners on one end first. This will allow us to stretch the vinyl without it coming off. Just be patient here and take your time. This is still easier and takes less time than the door handles. Like the smaller vent trim, we'll tuck the wrap in that gap in between the 2 trim sections and pay attention to those tight corners. Remember that we want to cut in the gap along the red trim so we have some material to tuck afterwards. Then cut the backside vinyl as normal and apply relief cuts as necessary. In terms of the vent cutout section, we'll apply our tuck method and run the blade on the inner trim. Once it's removed, reinsert the vent as we did previously. Now we can place back in our trims. The driver vent pops right in. The handles have hooks on each end and securing tabs in the middle. I personally prefer to have the metal tabs on the trim, but if you prefer, you can have them on the door handle first. You can actually see where it was scratched up before. That's where you'll want to place them. Then reconnect your lock switch and hazard light connection before pushing in the center vent. Finally, reconnect your iDrive controller and push in the trim. And congratulations! You can now take a minute to admire your hard work and updated BMW interior.
And just like that, we vinyl wrapped the interior of your BMW and addressed that big glaring issue that my dad had with his specific F30. And if you're curious about the white F30, we sold it for $6,500 and picked it up for $10,000. Now, of course, there was some damage on it and we had to put some money in order to restore it, which came out to about $2,000. But believe it or not, we were able to sell all the original parts that F30 came with, bringing down our total cost to $800. So we were all in at $10,800 and sold it for $16,500. So just under $6,000 worth of profit. And if you need some general tips on how to sell your car for the most amount of money possible, I'm gonna leave a video link for you guys right over here. But if you have any additional questions on how to wrap the interior of your BMW, leave it for me down in the comment section below. And if you need your own roll of vinyl wrap, I'm gonna leave the links down in the description as well. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and I'll see all of you in the next one.